The Hood was just revealed to be a Vanguard, and he is hilariously broken. If you thought DPS players crying about Devil Dinosaur being OP was bad, you haven't seen anything yet. What did you do, Rag Nation? I got to check out the Hood early, and he is the only hero I plan on using for the next month. If you love Tankpool before the nerfs, the Hood is the power creep version that makes him look balanced. You will need to know what this character does if you want to win games this season. Fortunately, that's what I'm here for. So I'll quickly break down what all his abilities and team-ups actually do, along with some basic and advanced tips on how to not let your team down when he arrives this Friday. Now Hulk smash that hype button if this guy helped you out, and let's get it. As you see, the comparison to Tank Deadpool was accurate. The Hood is a ranged Vanguard that applies constant pressure with his dual pistols. Because he's a mobile Vanguard, he also doesn't have the huge HP of a Groot or a Venom. Instead, he's at 550, which is 50 HP higher than Tankpool. Including his passive, the Hood has 4 total abilities, 5 including his team up, plus an ultimate. So you won't have to do as much reading as Deadpool, but how you use these abilities is what will mess most people up. His dual pistols are hitscan and have an ammo count of 40, but they fire much faster than Tank Deadpool, even when he uses his E ability to buff his fire rate. The Hood's passive is based on the demonic energy powering his cloak, and you can see it in the middle of your screen here, building up as he does damage. When the energy meter goes beyond 50%, the Hood's attack speed goes even higher. And when it hits 100%, things start to get ridiculous.
El demonio se alza.
We got a taste of this insane power when Jubilee uses her team up with the Hood to get a hit scan mode, but this is the much stronger original. When the Hood gets to 100% demonic energy, you can partially transform your base weapons into demonic rifles that fire faster than a machine gun for 6 seconds. While in this form, the Hood has infinite ammo and every bullet gives him lifesteal. Because of how fast he's attacking, he's basically immortal like Blade in the Marvel Zombies mode while deleting everything in front of him. The weapons are amazing, but it's when combined with his other abilities where the Hood just becomes absolutely ridiculous.
Sucker.
Every OP tank needs a shield or a bubble, and the Hood is no exception. By activating his right click, his cloak forms a sphere around himself that blocks all incoming enemy attacks. If he's above 50% demonic energy, the shield gets even bigger. He uses this on Captain America despite being in melee range, because while they're in the bubble, the enemy can't shoot the Hood, and the enemy supports also can't heal Captain America. So this is like a smaller version of the Devil Dinosaur bubble that you'll use for the same purpose. And it's on a pretty short 10-second cooldown, so the Hood will have it often. This next ability though is what brings this hero from S tier to the best tank in the entire game. We got a preview of this one with Cloak and Dagger's team up with Parker. When the Hood uses it, he creates a large veil that shoots forward and stays in place. When he shoots through the veil, he gains more demonic energy from his attacks. And when his passive is triggered and he gets the infinite ammo, shooting through the veil gives him more lifesteal. But as you see, the effect on the enemies is even more insane. Enemy projectiles that go through the veil deal reduced damage and get reduced healing as well. We see an example that this damage reduction is so crazy that he can tank a Punisher ultimate to the face. It also has an effect on enemies who walk through it. They take damage and become blinded, like we see happen to Wolverine when he leaps through the veil to reach the Hood. The veil is very wide, and in a lot of areas, especially maps with narrow walkways and choke points, it will be nearly impossible to avoid shooting through it. It's also on a very small 10-second cooldown and stays on the battlefield for a while, so this is something enemies will be dealing with all the time. Now, people familiar with the Hood are aware his most famous power is invisibility, and unfortunately for enemy healers, the devs did not forget.
Eat shadow. Can't see me.
They actually combined 2 of his iconic abilities into one. In the comics, the Hood gains invisibility from the cloak and flight from the boots he stole from a demon. His shift ability does both. The Hood enters a free flight state similar to heroes like Star-Lord and Phoenix, except this one has no energy meter and goes on a 15-second cooldown when you end it. You can fly in any direction and are invisible the entire time. In the example clip, the Hood uses it to dive Luna and take her out, then flexes the power of his right click ability that easily blocks Namor's attempt to solo ult him. These These abilities will make the Hood unstoppable in the hands of high skilled players who master him, but are very easy to mess up, which I'll help you avoid in a minute with a breakdown of his gameplay loop. But first we gotta talk about his ultimate, which at first glance will seem underwhelming compared to how insane the rest of his kit is, but is actually really strong, especially when used correctly.
Face oblivion!
Basically, the Hood transforms into the Gun Devil from Chainsaw Man and turns into a super high-powered demonic weapon. He can't move once he transforms, but gains over 1000 HP to compensate. You get 6 higher-powered shots, and each one gives the Hood bonus health for his team and himself. The final bullet deals the most damage, but what makes this ability so good is that it fully pierces. Not only does it go through multiple enemies, it passes through shields and barriers, so there is no actual way to block it. No Groot walls, no Doctor Strange shield, no Magneto bubble. The bullets go right through. You also don't have to be on the ground to use this ability either.
Yo soy el final!
Here he uses his shift to go invisible and fly up above the battlefield, then triggers the ultimate to start firing down. This is not an ultimate that you can get away with just using randomly. You'll have to actually put some thought behind when you pop it and where you'll position. Based on the raw damage numbers they showed here, unless they buff it, I would not recommend using this ability on its own. You should instead treat this like a combo ultimate. Only use this when you're safe from being taken out by the enemy and while combined with another strong ability that makes it more lethal, like a rocket amplifier or a Luna Snow ultimate, though the Luna part will be harder because it will require the Luna to switch to damage boost right before every shot. So rocket is the ideal choice. Mantis damage boost might also put it over the top. The Hood even has some surprisingly good team-ups. The team-ups overhaul has been great, but most of the roster has like one team-up that's insane or good, and one that is either useless or just not nearly as viable as the other. So there's no point in using it. For the Hood, you have a valid reason to run either. His team-ups are with Scarlet Witch and Moon Knight. For Wanda, the Hood gains a new ability. This one creates a zone of arcane energy that lasts for a temporary amount of time. This will be similar to the zone Magic can create using her team-up with the Hood. Inside the zone, enemies take constant damage over time and are hit with both damage reduction and healing reduction that stacks the longer they're standing inside the energy field. The Hood can also reactivate it in order to teleport directly to the center, giving him another movement ability to keep enemies from sliming him. That sounds like something you're locking every time, but the Moon Knight team up is also really good. Instead of a new ability, this one gives his Veil, which is the E, some new effects. It can now block all incoming attacks from enemies. They're still blinded if they pass through it, but when the barrier breaks, it now creates an explosion that causes any enemy hit by it to receive the damage reduction and reduced healing debuffs. I'll probably still use the Wanda team up, but the Moon Knight one could be really good to switch to if they have a lot of projectiles, like their own Hood paired with the Punisher and Winter Soldier. Now those are all his abilities, but how do you actually play him? What I love about the Hood is that he's a hybrid. He gives you the skill expression to do anything depending on the situation. You never want to just sit out in the open shooting on any tank, especially with his 550 HP. I see so many bad tank players running it down main, not using cover, taking damage from the entire enemy team, and then blaming supports when they fall over. Don't be that guy. Be the tank player with an actual brain. As often as possible, stand and shoot in a spot where you can disappear behind cover within 1 second. Use your availability as often as possible, but wait until the fight starts and the enemy tanks have walked far enough forward to engage your team. Then send out the Veil to reduce their incoming healing and focus your fire on the tanks and people behind them to apply pressure and build up your demonic energy. Once you're about to max it out, now you have the option to make an aggressive play to secure an elimination. One thing you can do is use your right click to try and eliminate a tank by blocking all their heals with a bubble and bursting them down with the unlimited ammo mode. I only recommend doing this on certain tanks though. Groot, Thing, and Venom are great targets. Emma, but only after her diamond form has been used. Magneto, once he uses his self bubble and shield. Don't bother trying this on mobile heroes like Captain America, who can just leave. I think more often though, you should instead try to make the play on enemy healers. So once you're at max energy, use your shift to go invisible and fly behind them. Throw out your Veil and focus on taking out one. If their team turns around to help, your team gets to shoot them for free, and they do reduce damage when firing through the Veil. Plus you'll still have your bubble available to block all attacks if you're actually in danger. But if you do this right and catch them off guard, you should be able to quickly take out one support and then the fight is over, unless they have two more. Once you've dealt with the healers or your form is about to run out, start looking to escape back to your team while applying the 1 second cover rule and save your bubble for if you're in danger while waiting for your shift to come off cooldown. If the healers are isolated, you can also bubble them to block them from healing each other. This should be the basic gameplay loop. Build demonic energy, use Veil to debuff the enemy, then look to make plays on the enemy healers using shift. Also keep track of enemy duelists, especially ones that try to dive your own supports. If there's a Psylocke or a Namor trying to take angles against your team, track them and force them to run off or eliminate them. You can also reduce their damage with Veils. The Scarlet Witch team up is also a great anti-dive skill. If you see a Magic or Daredevil coming after your healers, you can just drop the zone on them and ruin all their combos, while using your weapons to pressure them out. Also, keep track of certain enemy ultimates so you can use your own abilities. Like if you think Punisher is ready to ult, you might want to save the Veil for him to help your team stay alive while they move out of the way. Or save your bubble if you think Doctor Strange has ult and see him looking to fly and drop down for an Eye of Agamotto. Within a week, I think the Hood is going to be banned in every Celestial and above lobby. I also expect to see him in a lot of pro play. This character is amazing, and I just hope the devs put aside their anti-tank bias and don't nerf him in Season 10. Let the Vanguard mains have fun for once. Support players got to enjoy Gambit being the most broken hero in the game for 8 months. Let tank players experience some power fantasy for once. Let me know what you think of the Hood in the comments below, but that's just the beginning, as we have a ton more Rivals news and a return of a very popular event. Click the video on screen to learn more. And a huge shout out to everyone supporting me on Patreon. Join for free so you never miss an update.